Good evening, everybody. Today we have got a personality who's so multidimensional. From being an Olympian who ran the 100 meters for India at Moscow Olympics, Arjuna Award winner, president of the Indian Athletic Federation, member of the International Athletic Federation, uh, also an executive MBA 2003 from EIM, and AAA awardee this year. And when he submitted his nomination as AAA awardee, the first what I saw was a big recommendation from Sir Sebastian Coe, Lord Sebastian Coe, who is the 800 meters gold medalist in the Olympics. So today we have Adille Sumariwalla, who is going to talk about excellence in sports, which can do business and day-to-day life. So Adille, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nikhil. I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me a second. Yeah. Can you see the screen, Nikhil?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to just run you through some Yep. I'm just going to run you through some shots. So I was the captain, the flag bearer of the Indian contingent at the World University Games and the South Asian Games. At national level, won 11 times national sprint champion, held the Indian national record for 18 years, captain various teams, international, won a bronze at the Asian level, and 6 gold, 5 silver, 6 bronze, representing India at the Olympic Games, World University Games, Asian Track and Field Games, won the South Asian Championships, set a record of the South Asian Championships. I've been a President Scout as a Shiv Chhatrapati Award, the Arjuna Award, the Dadaji Konde Award. Sit on the Prime Minister's Mission Olympic Cell, on the Terry Fox Committee, the National Dope Testing Laboratory, Sports Authority of India. Started my career with Tata Motors, which was Telco, then was the founding CEO of Asian Age newspaper, moved to Midday, ran Midday for many years, started radio, started outdoor advertising, started internet for them. Sold the outdoor division to Clear Channel, which was the largest out-of-home company in the world. It was a $9 billion company. I was appointed as the chairman and managing director for India. That was in 2004. In 2013, I decided to start my own company. So I started Interspace Communications. I also sit on the board of Transstadia, Next Media Works, and I founded the Indian Outdoor Advertising Association. There's SEPCO. I was the first Indian to be elected to the World Council in its 103-year history. I got re-elected for a second term. On the bottom left, that is Thomas Bach, the president of the International Olympic Committee. This was a moment to cherish when I did the victory ceremony at Rio Olympics of Usain Bolt. Well, having said what I had to say, I was thinking of when Nikhil said, you need to do a webinar. So I was thinking, now what do I do? I have such stalwarts in the area of business in so many different areas. So I said, I have to get smart now. So I said, I will talk about something which I understand probably better than most people around. So I said, I'll talk about sport. And I'm going to talk about sport. I'm going to talk about my learnings from sport. And I'm going to talk about how we can relate sport to business, how we can relate sport to real life. We all know sport is about teamwork. We know it's about excellence. So I'm going to give you some of my views on relating sport to the above, my experiences of how through sport, and if you follow similar things in real life, you can reach excellence in life. So with that, I'm going to run you a very, very short film oh, one second. to get you into the mood of what is going to come.
ये कहानी है 1938 कैरली नाम के एक आदमी की हंगेरियन आर्मी में, और वो उस कंट्री का बेस्ट पिस्टल शूटर था। जितनी भी नेशनल चैंपियनशिप्स हुई थी उस कंट्री में, उसको वो जीत चुका था, और सबको ऑलमोस्ट कंफर्म था कि 1940s में जो ओलंपिक्स होने वाले हैं उसमें गोल्ड मेडल कैरली को ही मिलेगा। और उसने सालों से ट्रेनिंग करी थी। उसका एक ही सपना था, एक ही फोकस था कि मुझे अपने इस हाथ को दुनिया का बेस्ट शूटिंग हैंड बनाना है, बेस्ट बनाना है, बेस्ट बनाना है। और वो कामयाब हो गया, उसने बना लिया बेस्ट शूटिंग। सिर्फ 2 साल का फर्क। 1938 में एक आर्मी का ट्रेनिंग कैंप चल रहा था, क्योंकि वो आर्मी में था, तो एक एक्सीडेंट हो गया। उसके उसी हाथ में जिससे उसने गोल्ड मेडल जीतना था, उसमें एक हैंड ग्रेनेड फट गया और वो हाथ चला गया। जो उसका सपना था, जो फोकस था, सब खत्म। उसके पास 2 रास्ते थे। एक तो ये कि वो बाकी की पूरी जिंदगी रोता रहे और कहीं जा करके छुप जाए, या अपना जो गोल था, जिसपे उसने फोकस किया हुआ था, उसको पकड़ करके रखे। तो उसने फोकस किया उस पे नहीं जो चला गया था, जो उसके पास नहीं था। उसने फोकस किया उस पे जो उसके पास था। जो उसके पास था, और क्या था उसके पास में? एक लेफ्ट हैंड, एक ऐसा हाथ जिससे वो लिख तक नहीं सकता था। 1 महीने तक उसका हॉस्पिटल में इलाज चला इस हाथ के लिए, और सही 1 महीने बाद अभी ट्रेनिंग शुरू कर दी इस हाथ की। ट्रेनिंग के 1 साल बाद, मतलब कि 1939 में वो वापस आया। नेशनल चैंपियनशिप्स हो रही थी वहीं पे हंगरी में, और बाकी भी बहुत सारे पिस्टल शूटर्स थे वहां पे। उन्होंने जा करके उसको कांग्रेचुलेट किया, कहा कि यार देखो, ये होता है जज्बा, ये होती है स्पोर्ट्समैन स्पिरिट, कि इतना सब कुछ होने के बाद भी तुम यहाँ पर आए हो हमको देखने के लिए और हमारा हौसला बढ़ाने के लिए। किसी को नहीं पता था कि वो 1 साल से अपनी ट्रेनिंग कर रहा था लेफ्ट हैंड की, और उसने जवाब दिया, मैं यहाँ पर तुम्हारा हौसला बढ़ाने नहीं आया, तुम्हारे साथ कॉम्पीट करने आया हूँ, तुमसे लड़ने आया हूँ, तैयार हो जाओ। और कंपटीशन हुआ। बाकी सब वहां पर जितने भी लोग थे वो कॉम्पीट कर रहे थे अपने बेस्ट हैंड से, ये कॉम्पीट कर रहा था अपने ओनली हैंड से। ओनली हैंड से कौन जीता? The man with the only hand, कैरली जीत गया। लेकिन वो यहां नहीं रुका। उसका गोल क्लियर था कि मुझे इस हाथ को इस कंट्री का नहीं, इस पूरी दुनिया का बेस्ट शूटिंग हैंड बनाना है। उसने अपना सारा फोकस उठा करके डाला 1940 पे, जब ओलंपिक्स होने वाले थे। लेकिन 1940s के ओलंपिक्स कैंसिल हो गए वर्ल्ड वॉर की वजह से। उसने अपना सारा फोकस उठा करके कहां डाल दिया? 1944 में जो ओलंपिक्स होने वाले थे उसके ऊपर। 1944 में जो ओलंपिक्स होने वाले थे वो भी कैंसिल हो गए वर्ल्ड वॉर की वजह से। फिर से इसने अपना सारा फोकस उठा करके डाल दिया 1948 के ओलंपिक्स। 1938 में उसकी एज थी 28 साल, 1948 में उसकी एज हो चुकी थी 38 इयर्स। और जो यंगर जो प्लेयर्स आते हैं निकल करके, उनसे कॉम्पीट करना मुश्किल होता चला जाता है। लेकिन मुश्किल नाम का ये वर्ड था ही नहीं उसकी डिक्शनरी। वो गया, पूरे वर्ल्ड के बेस्ट शूटर्स आए हुए थे जो अपने बेस्ट हैंड से कम्पीट कर रहे थे, और ये अपने ओनली हैंड से कम्पीट कर रहा था। और कौन जीता? The man with the only hand. लेकिन वो तब भी नहीं रुका। 1952 ओलंपिक्स, दोबारा कम्पीट किया उसने, और इस बार गोल्ड मेडल कौन जीता? कैरली। 4 साल बाद दोबारा से, और पूरी की पूरी हिस्ट्री को बदल करके रख दिया ओलंपिक्स। इस पर्टिकुलर कंपटीशन में उससे पहले किसी भी एथलीट ने लगातार 2 गोल्ड मेडल्स नहीं जीते। किसी भी लूजर के पास चले जाओ, उसके पास लिस्ट होगी बहानों की कि मैं इस वजह से फेल हुआ अपनी लाइफ में, इस वजह से मैं कुछ नहीं कर पाया, बहुत लंबी लिस्ट है। दूसरी तरफ विनर के पास चले जाओ, उसके पास में 1000 वजह होगी वो ना करने की जो वो करना चाहता है, सिर्फ एक वजह होगी वो करने की जो वो करना चाहता है, और वो कर जाएगा।
Yeah, so I'm sorry, this was in Hindi for some of you who don't understand Hindi. I think you got the gist of it. This is about a great athlete who lost his shooting hand and trained his other hand, missed 2 Olympic Games, and then won 2 consecutive Olympic Games after that when he was 38 years old. So it's what you make of what you have. It's not the excuses that you make. And I'm going to touch upon that later in my talk. Having said that, I'm going to, so this is where I started. This is my school, St. Mary's School, ICSE. That's where I started my career. These are the very grounds on which I trained. And I went on to do a bachelor's and a master's from Bombay University, and an MBA, EMBA from AIM, and then went on to do a short course from Harvard. This is actually the point when I got into athletics, and if you read the title, it says "The Slap That Changed My Life." And if you see on the right is Mr. J.R.D. Tata. In the center is somebody who was my school teacher, my sports teacher, who was one of the most decorated sports officials, attended many Olympic Games. And he was my school teacher, and I'm not going to go into the details, but I was hardly 15 years old. This was 1970. This picture, not 1973, but it was the year 1973. When I said something to him, he slapped me across my face, and he taught me to think positive. And if we have time in the end, I'll come back to this slide. Taught me to think positive. He said, think good and good will happen. And I never looked back from that day onwards, and I never stopped winning from that day onwards. So this is something which everybody in AIM looks at: vision, mission, objectives, KPIs, strategy, programs, activities, resources, execution. Doesn't work, move to plan B, do internal analysis, external environmental analysis, etc. And actually, if you really see, when you connect it to sport, it's exactly the same. You have a vision, you set out a mission, you put out your objectives, you put in your KPIs, you see what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, you look at the environment, you see who are your competitors, what do they have, then you look at what are the resources you have, what are the coaches you have, what are the etc., what are the support staff you have. So actually, this is a very classic model, sports, and they're all linkages, whether you're looking at business, whether you're looking at real life, and whether you're looking at sport. And I'm going to keep making linkages right through. So, you know, when we were young, everybody in India talks about either you become an engineer or you become a doctor. And the two premier institutes, maybe MIT, Johns Hopkins. So you can start with a starting salary of $150,000. And that is probably topmost on the minds of young kids who are ready to go to school, probably even on our minds when we got out of school, wanted to do something in life. My story is different. I got into IIT, but I chucked it up to do sport, but that's a different story. Having said that, we come to this path versus the end, about journey versus destination. And we always get into this debate of you know, journey versus destination, path versus end. What is the most important thing? What is more important of the two? And I understand why people think that end is so critical. That is because end is a driver of ambition. And when we set out, you know, we set out goals for ourselves, which are result goals, then we want to get there at all cost. And when we want to get there at all cost, what happens? And the other thing is, one of the things that, because ambition is a driver, and I think that the end result excites most youngsters, most of us, and probably the older ones like us need to think of our children and how they think. So in sport, we've had this debate of journey versus destination. And, you know, we keep arguing about what is more important. And I'll tell you, through my experience in sport, I have found that if you're looking only at the end, the destination, then this is one of the reasons in sport which adds anxiety, which adds turbulence in our system. This is one of the reasons why top athletes choke. When you say athletes choke, why do they choke? They choke because of this. Because the end is so important for you, you start getting anxious. Your blood pressure starts to rise. You start feeling butterflies in your stomach. You're on the edge. Your muscles start tensing. You start feeling uneasy, sometimes even squeamish and sick. You get into a down spiral. And then what happens? When you get into a down spiral, you perform below your best. And this could happen on a sports field. It could happen to you in an examination. It can happen to you in an interview. And I'm sure most people have experienced this when they're going for an important interview, because you're worried of the outcome. And this is where the issue is. And then when we come at winning at all cost, where do we go? Then comes the question of ethics. When you want to win at all cost, it creates a temptation to do whatever it takes to win. So you start your journey down that path. And then once you go down that path, then you're not figuring out whether you're doing what is right or wrong. Hence, you do cheating, doping in sport, you do bribery and corruption in real life. So that is where I have an issue. The other thing that I have found time and again is athletes who chased cash as the end have lost their performance. And I believe that path to excellence is through performance, and money will follow. Money is only a byproduct and it will follow. And money is a good thing. I'm not saying money is a bad thing. Money is a good thing. But you have to believe that the path to excellence is through performance. So make the process of achievement supreme and the result irrelevant. The idea is to perfect the process of performance and not let the pressure of the result choke your performance. And that is the wonderful journey on the path of excellence. So, I'll give you examples. Races are not won and lost because somebody else is better, but sometimes because you didn't perform to the best of your ability. And I'm taking an example of a race. If I'm running in, say, lane number 3, I have no control over the other 7 competitors, but I have full control over myself. However, at the start, if I start to worry about the end or the performance of other competitors, I will then start getting anxious. I'll start getting nervous. I'll start to choke. Thus, I will not be able to perform to my best ability. And I have seen through experience that in most cases, when most people are equal, races are won or lost, not because somebody is actually better, but because the person didn't perform to the best of their ability. I'll give you an example. In early 1980s, I was hardly 20 years old. And I was in Germany running, training and running a few circuits. So in the very first meeting was in Cologne, Germany. There was Carl Lewis and there was Ben Johnson in my race. And I was overwhelmed. I was 20 odd years old, just 20 years old. And in those days, I was running 1040s, 1041, 1042, 1040. When I ran that race, I ran 1070s. And I couldn't figure out what the hell hit me. So I went to my coach and said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Think." And when I started thinking, I realized that I tried to run Carl Lewis's race or Ben Johnson's race. I was changing gears too fast. And if you change gears too fast, a lot of you are engineers. You know what happens, or everybody drives a car. If you change gears too fast, what happens in a car? And that's exactly what happened to me. So he said, after 3 days, we were running in Koblenz. So he said, the next race, you will go as if you have blinkers on. You will focus on a point 10 meters beyond the finish line. You will look at nothing on your right and left. You will not think of who's running right or left. You will only focus of reaching that point as fast as you can. The next day I ran, the next race I ran in Koblenz, I set a new national record of 1040. So this is what happens in life to us. We are so concerned about everybody else. We are so concerned about other things. We are so concerned about the end result. We are so concerned about the performance, but we're not concerned about the journey to that performance. So that brings me to another point of performance goals versus result goals. And when we seek excellence, we normally seek excellence in the result. But I'm convinced that excellence persists and exists in preparation. Great sports people, great individuals in different fields I have seen become what they are because they excel in their preparation. What you see in a race, for example, is only the end result of what has gone into preparation. And that is why top athletes set themselves performance goals and not result goals. I'll give you an example of, myself when, start is, I'm a 100-meter sprinter. Start is the most important part of a race. And that is where all your nerves come in, everything comes in there. Once the gun goes, you run like hell. But so everything is the first part of the race where you have to get off the block. And let me tell you that I ran for about 15 years. I had a very long career. I never ever fouled a start. Whether it was school sports, college sports, national championships, international championships, Olympic Games, Asian Games, Asian athletics, I never ever fouled a start. But 99.9% of the time, I was first out of the starting blocks. So this is what I'm talking about, perfecting your performance goals and not result goals. The result will happen. The other thing I want to talk about is teamwork. I'm sure people recognize this gentleman here. Most of you probably recognize this gentleman here. Those who don't, this is then Major Chandpuri, who died as Brigadier Chandpuri, recently passed away of cancer. He's the famous guy for the Longalwar War. I remember it was 8th standard. I was in the 8th standard, December 4th, 1971. I was writing my final exam on that day. And we heard about the great exploits of Kuldeen Singh Chandpuri. He's a very dear friend. He was also a qualified, internationally qualified technical official for walks, and he's officiating here at the World Championships. Very, very dear friend. Indo-Pak War, 1971. Chandpuri had 120 soldiers against, and I think on the TV now they're showing some stuff, against 3,000 Pakistanis. He had 4 jeeps with mortar guns on it. Pakistan had 50 to 60 tanks. Whole night they fought and kept the Pakistanis at bay. We lost 2 soldiers. Pakistan lost over 200 soldiers. We lost 1 jeep. They lost 36 jeeps and more than 36 tanks and more than 500 other vehicles. They worked on a strategy. They worked as a team. They kept moving the jeeps from one place to another. So the Pakistanis thought that there were many firing places. So they didn't know that they only had 4. So they were shooting from different places. So every time the fire went up, they thought that they had so many more guns and they wouldn't come closer, and they put minefields there. So then the Air Force came in early in the morning and saved them. So this was the place Longalwar where there was the death of hundreds of Pakistani vehicles. This is what teamwork is about. The teamwork is about, it's similar, if he hadn't stopped them, Pakistan would have walked into Jaisalmer. Again, example of Kargil War. And when I talk about teamwork, I think there is no example better than the services. First, the artillery went, soften those guys. Then the Air Force went and tried to take out as many as possible from those hills. And then the soldiers went up and captured Tiger Hill. So this is how people work as a team. And it's so similar if you actually think about it and put it into practice in your own company. It is very simple. The other thing which is so great in the army is, there is 1 santri, 2 santris in the night who are doing night duty during wartime when the rest of the people are sleeping. You are actually putting your life into the hand of those people who are doing night duty. Now, this is teamwork. When you can literally put your life into the hands of your colleagues. And the other great thing is they never leave. Their code is they never leave. They're injured or dead. And putting themselves in great peril, they retrieve their teammates. And this is what teamwork is all about. And if you just think about it and try to incorporate this within your corporate structure, I think so much can be done. So coming back to excellence, when you study at home, you practice on the track, you work, you're trying to get better and better on every run when you're trying to practice. So you put in 100% each time. And the next time you put in another 100%. And for the next opportunity, you have to put in another 100%. And if you continue to practice this, then that is what is the difference between good and great. And if you give 100% and you still lose, it's fine. It's fine. All you have to do is shake your opponent's hand and say, well done. And there's no shame in saying that because somebody was better. I could only run 10:40. Carl Lewis could run 10:0. But I did. If I was running 10:40 to 10:43, I ran 10:40. I ran better than my best, and that's fine. So remember that you'll sleep well in the night, and therefore I have something called the excellence manual, where never grudge somebody else's success. Because if you grudge their success, they will grudge your success. Secondly, excellence never seeks excuses, and you heard that even in the clip that we saw. Because the moment you say, I could have, but, the minute you say, I could have, but, you're trying to assign the blame of your performance on someone else. And therefore, you will never improve. In life, surround yourself with people who are better than you. If you feel insecure, then you'll surround yourself with people who are lesser than you. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who are lesser than you, then you will stop learning and you will stop growing. And I'll tell you, when I was with Clear Channel, I have actually paid my general manager much more than I was paid. He was really good, and I did do that. So there is nothing wrong in getting good people around you. The other thing that, once you reach a certain level, you don't like criticism. You don't like criticism. You don't like people telling you what is right, what is wrong, and therefore you stop learning. So therefore you stop growing. Fans are actually not your friends, especially if you're in sports, because fans will only say nice things to you. The fans, and you start believing all that is true. Fans can see no wrong in you. They are completely your fans. So, and they are your worst enemies. And I have another story. If you are a sportsman, don't marry your fan. And let me tell you my story. It's in 1980s, after I just returned from the Olympic Games, I met this smart, young, pretty girl in her early 20s. When I was introduced to her, by my colleague and said, Adille went to the Olympics, she's Asian medalist, whatever. And she said she never even heard of me. So my ego was totally deflated, and to save face, I said, young lady, your general knowledge is very, very bad. And that made no difference for her. He says, am I supposed to know who you are? Of course, we got to know each other better. And we got married a few years later. And through our 34 years of marriage, she's been my best friend and my greatest critic. And she keeps me grounded at all times. So I could not have married someone who was in love with my 50 plus national medals or international medals. And I hope she's not listening, because if she is, she will give me a big lecture now on all the things I said right and all the things I said wrong, and where I should improve, and what I should have said and what I should not have said. I am taking this chance and saying this, but I don't know. I've not seen whether she's on or not. So don't marry your fan. The other thing in sport is arrogance is one of the biggest stumbling blocks in the path of excellence in the sporting world. Again, in excellence, in sporting world, and if you have anger and ego, then you really don't need an opponent. You'll beat yourself. That brings me to talent versus attitude. A lot of, us pay a lot of emphasis on talent. And when we look at someone with talent, what do we say? Wow. Talent does that to us. It dazzles us. And yet I have found that for most part, excellence has got nothing to do with talent. The most important thing is what you do with the talent. And that brings me to the attribute of attitude. Beyond a point, attitude counts for more than talent, because talent breeds ego. And beyond a point, talent never solves problems, probably causes more failures, because these talented people have had it so easy and depend so much on it. I was definitely not the most talented athlete in my group. There were many athletes who were far more talented than me, but on the track, they never beat me. That brings me to no failures, no success. An Australian coach told me once that to be selected for the core Australian Army Commando team, if you had not experienced failure at some point in your career, you had to be someone who failed and bounced back. Otherwise, you could not be taken into the elite force. And that is where, again, attitude comes in. People think it's a mistake. People think mistake is a shame. Mistake is actually our best friend, because we learn what not to do. However, one must learn from our mistakes and not repeat them. And again, mistake teaches us what we must not do. That is a very, very important lesson. And if you can do that, then you'll move closer to excellence. So when we were in school, we were told practice makes you perfect. Isn't that true? My answer to that is no. And you must be wondering, what is this fool going to say again? It is not practice that makes one perfect. Only perfect practice can make you perfect. Just remember that. Only perfect practice can make you perfect. Excellence lives in the present, not in the past. For example, if you come to my house, none of my awards are displayed. All my medals are, my mother used to hand over medals to kids in the building. Some of my international medals are in some gunny sack somewhere. So it's not what was the past. What are you going to do in the future? What is the present and what is the future? So most of us and all of us have graduated from a great institution, and it will depend on each one of us how to grab hold of the opportunities that are provided and how we can achieve our fullest potential with each other. And before I end, there is one thing I want to say is, however, whatever we do in life, whatever we become in the future, I believe in 3 words. Humatta, hukatta, huvarishta means good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. There is only one path, and that is the path of truth. And I'm going to play you a very short film to end what I'm saying.
Don't give up, 'cause you have friends. Don't give up, you're not beaten yet. Don't give up, I know you can make it good. Don't give up, you still have us. Don't give up. We don't need much of anything. Don't give up, 'cause somewhere there's a place where we belong. Rest your head, you worry too much. It's gonna be alright. When times get rough, you can fall back on us. Don't give up. Please don't give up. Don't give up, 'cause
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and my views. I'm very happy to answer questions.
Can you stop sharing the screen?
Yeah. I'm doing that. Yeah. So
Now the first question, not a
have
question.
has it stopped sharing?
Not yet.
No. Okay. One sec. Stop sharing. Yeah.
The question what I have, or what you had in your presentation, can you just speak about your coach? That was the point. So that would be a good starting point. You said
So, so when I started at school, I had a coach called Mr. Alan Roberts, who was my school. In the school, if you have a school PE teacher, normally took your athletics. And when I came to the senior section, it was Mr. Jal Padiwala. Mr. Jal Padiwala was probably the most decorated official in India. Had received the Olympic Order of Bronze, etc. And then I started training with another coach called Bal Govind. However, I must tell you that we didn't have much scientific coaching or anything. And much later, when I went to Germany for a short training stint, and I gave my diary to the coaches there, they said something very shocking. And they said, had you not done any of this, you would have been a better sprinter. So I had overtrained. I used to train 3 times a day. In the morning, I used to go for long run. In the afternoon, I used to do weight training. In the evening, I used to do track running. I trained 7 days a week. I trained about 12 sessions a week, except Sunday evening rest. So I had overtrained. I had burnt myself out. So in those days, there was not much literature available. We had one magazine called Track and Field News, which we used to get 3 months later because it used to come by sea mail. It was a very different era. We used to run on grass tracks here. We had to run on synthetic tracks abroad. There were no grass tracks. We used to run on cinder tracks in India. So it was a completely, we were at a cusp sort of, after that, a lot of things changed. So there was really not much that, except I got very good, encouragement, etc. But technically, we did everything wrong in terms of sports science, biomechanics, biochemistry. For example, I was doing stats. I tore my quadricep muscle. My coach, poor fellow, didn't know much. He ran across from University Stadium to Queen's Chemist, brought a tube of Relaxil, rubbed it on my leg, told me, go home, put hot water, where I should have been putting ice. The next day, my whole leg was black. So while the intentions were all good, there was really no, and that is when I became president of Athletic Federation. I had vowed that I would bring the best coaches, I bring the best physios, I bring the best doctors for our team, and that is how we have people like Neeraj Chopra, Hima Das, and others who are coming up. So it was a very different time, Nikhil.
Ramesh Kelly would like to ask a question. So please
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah. Adil, that was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
What all you have said applies to every business situation, every enterprise. Question I have is, why is it that we have not produced Olympians, champions in sports so far? What is the gap and what is the remedy?
Okay. That answer, would take 3 days. However, in short, I will let you know. I talk to you. There are many issues, and it's not one. They're very complex issues. Some of the very complex issues include socio-economic issues. There is definitely, people talk about 1.3 billion people. Why can't we produce a champion? That's complete nonsense, because 60% of them live below the poverty line. They don't have enough to eat. They have no strength. They have no nothing. So there are very few people who, and the good people who have food and who have excellent conditions, don't want to do sport. It's too strong. It's too difficult. They want to become engineers, doctors. They come from rich families. They want to join their parents. They want to pay fancy things like golf and tennis. They're not interested in coming to the track to slog it out. Secondly, we don't have the physique for certain sport. For certain events we do, where we do well. If you're talking about a sprinter, we've not been able to find a 6-foot sprinter who has fast twitch muscle fiber. We have throwers, and again, the throwers we have are big, but again very slow. So there are a lot of complex issues. There are issues of doping. There is issues of overage. There is there are a lot of, again, like I said, so many athletes are destroyed at grassroots level because there is no program for the coaches. The coaches don't know, just keep making them run and run and run. And one of the things we've identified is overtraining too early in life. And coaches want performance, so they overtrain their athletes too early in life. That's another problem that we have. Of course, you can say, what is the solution? So we are doping. I have moved now with Justice Mudgal a bill for criminalization of doping. For overage, we are doing testing. We are doing biometrics, etc., trying to stop that. So that we get better coaches. I have introduced the World Athletics Level 1 coaching program in India, and we produced already in this year 500 Level 1 coaches, which is the biggest program in the world. We want to have 5,000 coaches in the next 2 years, and stuff like that. So I'll tell you a socio-economic problem. A couple of years ago, we picked up some very good kids, Adivasi kids, and brought them to National Institute of Sports. And we were giving them good food, etc. And after a few weeks, we found that they started doing very well, and that they were very disturbed and not reacting, not training. And then we tried to talk to them. They were not opening up. Finally, we got psychologists, etc. And finally, we found out that they were saying that we are so upset that what we eat for breakfast, our whole family does not eat through the day. We can't eat this food. We are feeling guilty. We can't, so there are such issues, very, very complex issues. So this is a discussion I'm happy to have at some open forum at some time, where we can really sit and discuss this, because we don't have too much time because it's a 1-hour session. So, but I'm happy to sit with you and discuss it. And it is not that we can't, we can. We are putting the blocks in place. We are putting the basic pillars in place, and I'm sure that in athletics we will get medals. It's the most difficult sport. 215 countries take part. There are no barriers. You can run bare feet. You can do whatever you want. It's not like badminton or tennis or anything where you need to go to a club where there are barriers, etc. So I don't know if that answers partly your question, but it's a very complex discussion that takes place.
Thank you.
And it's not money. It's not money. Because it was money, it was very simple. You would have put the money, got the best coach, given them the best food and made them win. So it's not money. I want to tell you that too. Yes.
Natarajan, then I'll come to you, Sachin.
Yeah.
Natarajan, go ahead. Natarajan, I have unmuted you. Natarajan? Okay, I'll come. Okay, Sanjeev, you go ahead.
Hi, Adil.
Hi.
Well, I could identify very well with your presentation because I was once upon a time a national hockey player. Not too many people know that. And I also started my career in Bajaj Auto in those days. But, I could identify exactly what you were saying. But unlike you, I did not have the courage to continue with it because my dad told me, look, you can, I'm assuming you'll become the captain of India, but then you'll get a job in the admin department of Mahindras or Tatas, and that's what it's going to be like. So, but one thing I think very importantly, which I want to just share with everybody and yourself is, and I agree with what you're saying, is the lessons that you learn in sports are so vital to your success in business. And I think, when you don't like somebody in your team, how do you play with the guy? And, these are simple things that you learn through the whole process. From my experience, at that point of time, there were one or two guys I thought who, were good footballers who would have played in the English Premier League. I'm from Goa originally, but they just didn't have the opportunity. A lot of it was at that time, which I've also seen at that time, was the politics of it. The guys would, even you may be the best player on the team, but the coach was they won't select you because you were not so-and-so's son, or so you didn't know somebody. Has that changed today in India from the time I'm talking about? This is probably 40 years ago or 35
You are
years
absolutely right. There was horrible politics. So let me tell you how I got hit by politics. I went to 1980 Olympics. After I came back, I found that our officials were stealing from us. We used to get $5 allowance. So for 10 days, it was $50. They would steal $25, give us $25. So I would fight with them. Then I started the Athletes Welfare Association. We went on a Bhuk Hartal at NIS Patiala. Bhuta Singh had to fly down from Delhi to Patiala to stop our Bhuk Hartal. But what did they do? 1984 Olympics, they took me to the airport and dropped me. They didn't give me my ticket. They took me, they gave me my blazer, they gave me my kit. They took me to the airport. They said, oh, we forgot your ticket. Take it from the office tomorrow and come on tomorrow's flight. When he went to the office next day, everybody had left. There was a lock on the office and that was the end of it. And I never went. My entry was sent, but they did not take me to 90 just to teach me a lesson for fighting for the rights of the athletes. Today, things are different. At least I have, and that was the biggest, when I became president, my first thing I said, this is an irony. I was the guy who fought the whole system. And now you made the naughtiest boy the monitor of the class. So,
Isn't that how it works? Since you think it's broken, you fix it, right?
So what I did, the first thing I did was I accepted the sports code, which no other federation was accepting. I accepted RTI, which no other federation was accepting. I accepted CAG audit, which no other federation was accepting. And people and the whole Olympic Association was up in arms against me. And I said, no, I don't want to steal. I don't want to do anything. Let there be transparency. So things have changed. Okay. Ours is a little more, objective sport. Hockey is still a little subjective sport. But I think a lot has changed in hockey, if you see, and our guys are really doing well under.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So you're absolutely right that there used to be politics. It's much less now. I cannot say it's gone. There are some good associations and there are some not so good associations, but 80% of that is good.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Natarajan?
Yeah, thanks. Adil, thanks for a fantastic presentation. My question to you is this. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, audible.
Cool. Yeah. So there are two questions that I have. One is that many a times in some of the sports, if I were to talk about cricket, okay, there are young stars who come, they blaze for some time and then they fade away very quickly because they are unable to handle success. So there are two cases that I could talk of. One is you had a Sachin Tendulkar who came in and stayed on, and he became a legend. And then we had a Vinod Kambli who couldn't probably handle success. And now we have a guy like Rishabh Pant, who again has done extremely well and then is under a shadow. Now, what would be your lesson to would-be sports people, the youngsters who are coming up, as to how to handle success? I think this is something that needs to be probably been told and ingrained so that they're able to handle success as much as they're able to handle failure.
No, you're absolutely right. There is a huge problem. Today, the pressures are very high. Also, the pressures are very high because there's a lot of money which has now come into sport. These athletes of mine who won medals at the Asian Games, have earned crores of rupees. So some of them come from a very, very simple background, come from villages.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a small story. I was the chef de mission of the Indian contingent to the Asian Games in Incheon. And one of our girls, walking girls, won a silver medal for the first time in walk. And I was in the dining room and then she came and joined me because we just came back from the race. And so I was sitting and eating with her and saying, so great, now you're going to become a very rich girl. And she said, हाँ sir, अब मेरा घर का छत बन जाएगा. अभी तक हर मॉनसून में मेरा घर में पानी आता था, अब मैं घर का छत बना दूंगी. So when I'm talking about socio-economic issues, then they start running after money. Then what they do is they don't do training. Then they go from village to village trying to collect money. And that is where when I said that people who ran after money have failed, never came back at the next games. And she was a very young kid. And there are so many such cases. So sometimes it is mental, sometimes it is just the need to grab at that point, that I have one, I have whatever I have, let me grab it now. I don't know what tomorrow will look like. Therefore, they don't have a long-term vision. They don't have a long-term vision. Their vision is what can I grab today because I've been in such poverty. So there are lots of these issues and it's difficult to talk to them. We try very hard. But it's not easy because their whole thought process, their needs are so different from what you are trying to put into their head. आप ओलंपिक जीत सकते हो 4 साल के बाद. तो 4 साल किसने देखा है?
बिल्कुल.
So these are lot of that's why I said I can have a free discussion session. Sometimes we take ready to do 2-3 hours of session with the group to discuss all this, but it's not a simple answer
I understand.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if I answered your question, but it gives you the overall perspective.
Yeah. Rishindra Ghosh?
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thanks a lot for your presentation. I, for one, certainly didn't know that we had an alumni who's participated in the Olympics and all. Makes me feel even more proud about our institute. I'm a huge sports buff, so I have two questions actually. So the first one is 1980 Moscow Olympics. That's the last time where we won the hockey gold as a team.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Olympic memory? And my second, slightly different, is for someone who's a sports buff but never been a professional athlete, but is an MBA, etc. What sort of avenues in the sports field which can be explored by someone? So two slightly different questions.
Okay. So first, let me get your first question. By the way, my first love is hockey. It's not athletics. I was just just did athletics. So 1980 winning. I was there every single match. Somaya is my schoolmate. Somaya was junior to me by 1 year. I used to be his senior. I used to play hockey. I gave up hockey because I was too aggressive and I used to get injured very often. So my coach stopped me from playing hockey so that I could take part in athletics. Had I continued hockey, I would have played on that team because I was better than Somaya. So having said that, so that was, I think, a great moment when you go through all the matches. You're the biggest cheerleader, and I was as happy as anybody on the hockey team. They should just stay one floor below me, and I spent all the time with them, and I had some very good friends there with Mervyn and Joachim Carvalho and the captain and everybody else. Secondly, I think I don't think sports is different from anything. If you're doing marketing, whether you sell a pin or you sell a Jeep, or whether you have to sell a sports team, or whether you have to promote an athlete, or whether you need to bring in money through sponsorship, I think it's all related. You may not get into the technical part of it, but being an MBA, you can always be there there to be the back office, that which is actually the biggest foundation of all our athletes. People think it's the athlete and that coach. That coach does nothing. Between Usain Bolt's semi-final and final, the coach has nothing to tell him. It is the masseur and the physio and the others who are working on him to put him back on the track in 3 hours time to run the final between semi-final and final. So the issue is, what is the support staff? What are we creating behind? And that is the most, and that is where an MBA can come in, bring in expertise, bring in good practices of a good corporate. Why I do well in my federation? 15 years I worked with Tatas, I worked with Midday, I worked with international companies like Clear Channel, and therefore I pick up the best practices from those and try to implement them in a federation which is run by an association, which is a very difficult ball game, where you have to fight an election every 4 years. Luckily, in Athletics Federation, in the last 20 years, we haven't had an election. We've sat together and decided who would be the president and the vice president, etc. So we have a very good federation, luckily. But it's not like other federations are not like this. And you can work anywhere.
Last question was
Yeah.
to Darshan. Could you share some developments the recent Khelo India infrastructure program at school level?
Okay, to be honest, I'm not a fan of Khelo India. Because I'll tell you what, the bureaucrats are trying to set up a parallel system. Khelo India is not going to find any talent. Who goes to Khelo India? People who have won my state and national championships are the guys, because they only select top 16 or top 18 in an event. Who are these people? These are people who have won my championships, which the federation runs. That is the qualification. So are you doing talent search? No. Talent search is done by me. I run an all India inter-district program where over 500 districts come and take part, where Athletic Federation pays for food, accommodation, transport, conveyance, travel, everything. Where 4,000 kids take part in only age groups of under 16 and under 14. Whereas whole of Khelo India, 4,000 kids take part in all the events from kabaddi to kho-kho to football to everything. So in my view, it's a ego trip of bureaucrats who want to take charge of and control of sport from the federations, but it's not a sustainable program. And if the same amount of money, the 100 crores which they spend on Khelo India, if they distributed that money to the national federations to run their championships, it would be run 100 times better than Khelo India.
Thank you, Adille. As usual.
I'm sorry, I'm actually sitting on the other side. As far as Khelo India, I am supposed to be sitting on the other side, but this is a very strong view that I have because I sit on the Khelo India committee, but I've always been saying that this is the wrong thing that we are doing. So, I'm not talking from the federation side. I sit on that committee. So.
No, I know because you are a regular thorn in the side of people who want to have more of hegemony, and you have brought in so many good things into transparency to the federation. And
thank you.
Getting you was as difficult as getting Ed Morato. So thank you very much for joining. I'll just switch off my recording.